Hi, a quick video about how you should be using AI in your extended essay IB project. Now, I know that's controversial. I know there's many teachers out there who are panicking and saying this is only for cheating. Well, it can be used for that. Yes, I agree. But just like a pen can be used to copy. But a pen can also be used to write poetry. That doesn't mean we ban the pen. So I want to show you some of the ethical ways and some of the ethical tools out there and websites out there that are really going to improve your learning, and they're going to improve the quality of the research for your extended essay and ultimately make a better piece of work. So these are a few things that I think every child out there should be linking to and should be using in their extended essay project. Let's take a look. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at the extended essay from the early stages. This is right back when you haven't got your fully finalized questions, but you're roughly thinking of a subject area. You should be able to see my screen, and I'm basing it on, in fact, the exemplar that IB have given us, this one on Oracle. Now, it's interesting. In their example, they said, to what extent can Oracle's success be contributed to its corporate culture and organizational structure? Now, contributed is not really the right word there. We understand what it means, but a better word would be attributed to its corporate culture and organizational structure. I'm not going to use that exact question because that's been done, but I'm going to have a variation of that. I'm going to use, to what extent can Apple's success be contributed to its corporate culture? I'm going to keep that mistake in there because I'm going to show you why in a moment. So with that question, I'm sure you've been instructed by your teachers, or even if you haven't, the first thing you did was put that question into Google. Very sensible, to see what comes up. However, there are a couple of problems there. The first problem being is that Google may not be able to understand that little mistake that's in there about contributed to. As a human, we understand that the context of the question, and we're really looking for attributed to, but we understand the gist of it. Google may not get that, so it might be showing results that aren't really relevant to what you're really asking. The second problem with Google is, well, it's a search engine, and when you put that question in, it doesn't give you an answer. It gives you a great big list. And what's more, that list isn't ordered by anything other than how closely it matches the words or the phrases in the question. And furthermore, at the top of that list, it's going to put not the best answers, but the people who've paid to go at the top, who want to match that search. So you take that and you're trying to find your research questions, but ultimately you've got a big long list with no way of knowing, well, which is the best for the answer. That's where AI can come in. I'm going to show you a couple of tools. The advantage of generative AI is there are some sites out there that are calling them answer engines rather than search engines. The first thing that generative AI can do is it can understand the context of the question. So it's going to overlook that you said contributed to. It understands what you mean. It says, I know what we're doing. And it's going to get the gist of your question and not just give you word matches, but give you answers that are relevant to the very question that you've asked. So the first place I'm going to take you to is one called Perplexity. Should appear on my screen. And if you haven't seen this, you should. It's absolutely incredible. So Perplexity is, first of all, it's using generative AI to understand the meaning behind your question, not just looking up phrases or near phrases. It's going to understand exactly the question that you're asking, or it should. So let's copy and paste my question into here. Now I'm going to click on it, and there we go. So it's understood the context of my question, and it's given me an answer. It's searched all of the web, and it said, well, what's the general consensus? What do generally people think the answer to be? And it's going to give an answer. Now, here's the thing. You do not want to copy this answer down, because who's to say that's right? But what it is fantastic at is giving you an opinion. So the general consensus we reckon is this answer. But I'm not really going to be swayed by that. I'm going to have a read of it. But what I am interested in is, where has it got its answer from? So we see we've got these little notes. It doesn't just make it up like ChatGPT could hallucinate. No, we're not looking at hallucinations. It's telling us where has it searched. So if I click, you'll see this is one of the places it's found its answer. You want to be saving it, reading it, printing it. This is obviously a really important document that I want to be coming back to. We can see we've got more here. We've got a LinkedIn one. We've got another PDF one, and we've got 2 more. These are great starting points for you to go to these places, save them, find them, read them, draw your own conclusions. Okay, so the next place, the next AI I want you to use, or you should be using, I don't want you to use it, you should be using, I believe, is, well, you heard me use the word before, consensus. And that's the name of this AI app. So whereas we use Perplexity to find out the consensus, the general website, taking us to just articles people have written, we now need to get serious, as it's the extended essay. It needs to be based on scientific research and research papers. So this is a great app for that. This is going to give the consensus by searching through all of those research papers. So I'll put the link in the video below, but we can see, again, I'm just on the free version. It will do much more if you pay for it, but I don't think you really need to do that. So I've copied and pasted my question in. I click search, and here we go. Again, it's going to give me a summary. Wonderful to read, but you're not going to be looking at. You shouldn't be just copying and pasting that in, because that's just AI coming up with a conclusion. You want to be making your own conclusions. But we are absolutely interested in, well, where did it get that answer from? So below we can see these are all the different papers that it's trawled through, research papers that it's trawled through to find an answer. So we've got to spend some time looking at them. I'm not going to be doing that now, but let's just click on one. So it seems to me organizational culture, organizational effectiveness in a global context, Apple, the way, right, well, okay, let's have a look at that one. So a couple of things. First of all, we're going to click on it. It's going to give the key takeaway, that's the quick summary of this paper, this research paper. It's going to be hard now because they're real research papers. We've got the abstract from the paper, nice and tricky. And again, you're an IB student, you should be reading through these things. And if I click on this, then we can see this provides the link to the whole paper. The problem being, these papers are probably not free, but that's where you should have a school library. You'll have a librarian. You'll have access to something like at my school we've got EBSCO. If you can find the name of that paper, then rather than having to pay for it, that's what you want to take to your librarian and say, hey, have we got this paper? And then we can trawl through it. But we can get the key gist of what information is important. But before we go and take it, there's one other thing that is fantastic about this consensus. If I go back from here, something to think about for those real high-level learners. Not every research paper is the same. Well, just because someone's written it doesn't mean it's fantastic. So you should be reflecting on, well, how good is this paper? So this is a great way to have a look. If we look at this paper, Examining Technological, we can see it's got some information. It says 76 citations. That means that's the number of times that another researcher has quoted that, as in saying, hey, this is really interesting, and I want to use their evidence in my own research. So the 76 citations since 2013, you'll see it's highly cited. Lots of people are trusting that paper. Whereas we can see this one that I was just on, well, sorry, but it's only 9 citations since 2017. So not many people have linked back to that research. Not to say it's not good, you have to make your own decision, but not many people have been doing it. The higher the citations, generally, the more trustworthy it is. So the other thing to have a look at with this consensus is, as well as the highly cited, we'll also have a bit more description. Now, these are all snapshot studies, so I'm going to come back to those. But there's so much information on this website. We can see it's also suggesting for me, maybe you should have a look at this question and read what this is. So I'm going to click on that. Okay, interesting. Now, I've got other papers it's suggesting. Now, this has got a bit more variety in the papers. Could have had it previously, but it didn't. So this is one of these things. We've got an observational study. Now, if you hover over it, you can see it's going to give some information. Observational studies is where they've observed people. You can read. You should be thinking about that when you're reviewing the paper and how trustworthy it is. These ones, it's highly cited, but it's a snapshot study. If we keep scrolling down, they're all quite a lot of the same ones that's coming up for this question. But here we have a systematic review. Well, again, have a read, hover over it. A systematic review means that someone has gone through lots of papers on this topic and they've put their own summary of what they found from all these papers. So that one is very trustworthy. We like that one. If it's got a green triangle at the top and you feel it's relevant to your question, you want to be getting your hands on it, you want to be reading it and printing it off. And there'll be various other options with these papers, but if there's something there, hover over it. We also have the links. It tells you how to cite it in the different styles. Fantastic tool. Very quickly, two other things that you might want to use. So there is Elicit, which is very similar to Consensus. Some people prefer this, some people prefer Consensus, but it's doing the same thing. It's trawling through 200 million scientific papers. We put the link in. 125 million papers, it says there, summarizing the first 4 abstracts. But again, it's going to give us the links. So you feel free. Great. I use probably a bit of both of these things because I'm not on the paid version. So when I run out of my free credits for Consensus, what I can do is I can come into Elicit and I can put the link into there. And if not, why not? I don't know whether they're overlapped, but I want to find all of those papers that have been written. So here, again, we've got a link of these papers, these number of citations, something to play around with. One final place that I want to take you to, probably a little bit advanced, but this is one used heavily by researchers, I believe. Scite.ai, if we have a look on this. Not much of a free version. I think you've got 1 per day, so use it carefully. But it does loads of advanced things. So if we look on this, you can ask it questions in the same way we have before. We can unblock what are some major unanswered questions about empathy. I'm not so keen on that. You should have your question already. Then things like this. Find competing evidence for the paragraph below. Fantastic stuff. With all of these things, play around with them. I'm just going to put my question very simply back in here. I'm going to use it. That it's going to give me an answer. It's going to give me the papers. Again, here we go. It's going to reference where the papers are, but something that's a little bit different. If I click on these papers, here we go. What's nice about this one, a little bit more advanced. So rather than just saying, as I told you before, the number of citations, this is getting in a little bit more depth. And it's saying, well, 38 citations, sure, but these are the number of people that have supporting citations about the statement. So they've said they agree. So this one, 38 times, but there's one person who really agreed. 39 times mentioning citation statements about this work. And number of contrasting citations. So that's interesting. How many people disagreed? As I said, very advanced. It's worth having a look to see the argument. You might say, well, who said that? Click on that and you can find who disagreed. So many better things out there than Google now. And you should be using all of these to get depth ethically into your extended essay.